No matter which draft product you're pouring in your bar, there's 6 key essentials of a perfect pour. First up, we have your glass. Now, our brewers and suppliers spend a lot of time and money researching and developing their glassware to enhance aromas and flavors and also head retention. So if you do have branded glassware in your bar, make sure you're using it for the correct product. Some key glassware checks you need to make before pouring your pint. So number one, make sure it's clean. Now, glassware should always be free from residue and free from lipstick. You can also check if your glassware is clean by performing a simple water break test. Glassware should always be renovated once a week. Glasses should always be cool. If you're pouring beer or cider into a warm glass, what you'll find is the beer will fob. So you'll get lots and lots of foaming and you'll have to over pour to create a pint, causing lots of wastage. Glasses should always be dry. If you're pouring beer or cider into a wet glass, the carbon dioxide within the liquid itself, which causes the head and the bubbles, will dissolve into the water and create flat beer. Making sure your glasses are chip free is vital to make sure our guests don't hurt themselves. And always make sure it's the correct glass. So not just the correct branding, but also the correct style of glass for the beer or cider that you are pouring. Carbonated liquids such as keg ales and lagers will always need a nucleated glass, so you'll look for a stamp in the bottom of the glass which will keep the bubbles flowing. Where you hold the glass is really important. We need to prevent cross-contamination for our guests, so always remember the top 2/3 is for the guest to hold, and you must always hold your glassware by the bottom third. Now, the nozzles that we use, depending on the products that we use, will be different. So if you're pouring lagers, keg ales and ciders, you'll use a simple nozzle. A simple nozzle, you'll be able to look straight down it and see straight through the end. These can either be metal or plastic, depending on your bar. For Guinness and smooth throw products, you use a nozzle with a creamer. Now, a creamer is a metal disc with holes in. So these come in 4 parts, as you can see by the image, and they create a smooth, tight head on the beer. Make sure these nozzles only go on the correct products because otherwise they'll cause a lot of fobbing. And where you're serving cask ales in your business, depending on where you work, you may or may not use a sparkler to pour them. A sparkler is a nozzle that you attach to the cask line and it breaks up the bubbles in the beer and gives a really tight, creamy head. Now, the next part is a tricky bit, so the pour. Depending on the products that we have in our business, there are different pour techniques that you need to use. So for cask ale, for lager, and for cider. We can have a look at the videos later on to make sure you know which is which. And the head. So size does matter. So by law, we are legally obliged to serve 95% liquid in our pints. This means that the size of the head on the pint you pour has to be no more than 5 mm high and 5% of the whole pint. So just some examples there for you. If a guest asks you to top up their pint, do so pleasantly. And finally, the presentations. So your final check. So make sure that the liquid you've poured is the right colour that you expect it to be. There's no haze on there unless there's supposed to be if it's a craft beer, and it smells great. Make sure that there are no spillages down the side. So if you have dripped on your pint, make sure you give that a wipe before you give it to the guest. Make sure the branding is facing the guest if you're using a branded glassware, and also present that drink with a smile. So there we go, our 6 key essentials for the perfect pint.